Your news for the state of Tennessee in about 10 minutes. Tennessee in 10 starts now.
Thanks so much for joining us for Tennessee in 10. I'm Marius Payton. If you own a home, you'll want to hear this. Right now, lawmakers are backing a new bill that would limit how high and how fast cities and counties can raise property taxes, but not everyone's on board. If the bill passes, local governments won't be able to hike property taxes by more than 2% a year or 6% at the end of a 3-year span. If your city or county wanted to go higher, they'd have to put the property tax increase up for a vote in the next statewide election. The bill is supposed to be an effort to save people from sticker shock, especially in places like Nashville and Mount Juliet, where property taxes reportedly spiked over 60 and 100% in the past few years. Lawmakers in favor of it say those hikes are especially hard on first-time homeowners and seniors who are living on fixed incomes.
We feel like responding to Tennesseans in this way is something responsible to do. And again, being only one of 4 states that does not do that, now is the time to take that action.
Indeed, it is. That's what they are telling us. Recent polling shows 90% of people living in the volunteer state support capping local property taxes. In recent years, efforts like this have failed, mainly because local property taxes are widely used to help fund local schools.
I'm Jerry Askin. Tennessee lawmakers are debating a bill this morning that would allow schools to display the 10 Commandments. The measure also includes the Declaration of Independence and U.S. and state constitutions. House Republicans say it promotes historical and cultural education. Memphis Democrat Justin J. Pearson argues it violates non-Christian students' rights. We asked some Memphians how they feel about the 10 Commandments in schools.
Our country was founded on freedom of worship, freedom of religion, and to post one particular religious doctrine in a school where all different types of religions are present, I think is blurring the separation of church and state.
I feel like the 10 Commandments is the Constitution of the Bible. So if you already got the Constitution, why not add that? Everybody don't go by the same religion. So, it just gives them a different perspective.
The bill does not require districts to post the documents. A separate bill would require schools to teach the Bible as literature and biblical history.
Governor Lee's Education Freedom Scholarship Plan, or school vouchers, is getting a renewed look in the state legislature this time around, looking to add more money into the pot of money where those vouchers are pulled from, looking to send more kids to private school with public money. Now, all of this is happening as State Representative Sam McKenzie's effort to collect further information about who is receiving those education vouchers was defeated in subcommittee last week along party lines. Now, the bill would have required reporting on whether voucher recipients had already enrolled in private schools, transferred from public schools, or were new to Tennessee's education system. McKenzie said both the governor and House Speaker have previously expressed support for transparency measures, but it was shot down in committee. Many were concerned that the process to do this was something that the Department of Education in Tennessee had not done before. Therefore, they didn't want to do what they say further burden the Department of Education with stuff that they obviously had not done previously.
Time to look at that first alert weather. Meteorologist Stefano DiPietro here to tell us about a first alert weather day scheduled for Thursday.
And as we head to our Thursday, 2 rounds of rain coming our way, 1 in the morning, then 1 into the evening, early into the overnight. The main severe threat is mostly north of Interstate 40, with damaging wind gusts being the main concern. It's not a major widespread threat whatsoever. You can actually see through central northern Kentucky. That's going to be the main area of concern for strong thunderstorms. But even here in the northern parts of Tennessee, we could get clipped by a strong thunderstorm heading into our Thursday. Better look at futurecast. Now, there's some of that rain that's coming in through Thursday morning, but it's Thursday afternoon, late into the evening, that this cold front develops. We'll have more details coming in the next few days with the exact timing, but that's to let you know Thursday's our big day of change. We'll actually end up in the mid-70s. Upper 70s, might even make a push near 80 on Thursday if we can hold off that rain enough. Once that wraps up, though, get ready for a big drop in the temperature. Friday and Saturday, it's rather gradual, 60s and 50s. Then Sunday and Monday, we're back in the 40s.
As the Memphis Safe Task Force with ICE agents operates right here in Memphis, new numbers show Shelby County ranks 10th in Tennessee for reported immigration arrests. A 2025 state immigration report shows authorities reported more than 11,000 people as being in the U.S. illegally across Tennessee. Shelby County arrests totaled 273. Officers made many of those arrests for traffic violations, driving without a license, and DUIs. Memphis Mayor Paul Young says the task force only focuses on violent crime.
That's why you may see them with them, but when they're with our police officers, they're not focused on immigration.
Some smaller counties reported more immigration arrests than Shelby. Sumner County, just north of Nashville, had nearly 4% more.
Well, things in Nashville and the state legislature are beginning to pick up steam after that winter weather. Now state lawmakers returning to the State House to start working on laws across the state of Tennessee. Now, multiple immigration enforcement bills are currently working their way through committee, heading to full floor sessions. A lot of these bills are addressing things like schools, hospitals, and even traffic stops. Now, many state legislators warn of unintended consequences through different forms of different perspectives. Now, State Representative Sam McKenzie, a Democrat from Knoxville, argues that immigration enforcement is fundamentally a federal responsibility. In the state Senate, Senator Richard Briggs, a Republican from Knoxville, sharing concerns about immigration enforcement. His focus, though, is on protecting Tennessee's economy and major foreign employers. Federal representatives, including the president's administration, have pointed to a direct effort at cracking down on crime. When asked about operations like what's happening in West Tennessee, they say this is all about making our community safer, reducing immigration crimes. The state legislature has signaled that they want to take a very serious look at this, but there are some concerns from leaders on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, saying they're concerned that some of these laws may have unintended consequences across the state.
Lawmakers are now considering two new bills aimed at improving maternal health care in Tennessee. Both are backed by Memphis Democratic Senator London Lamar. One of the bills would prevent emergency rooms from turning away pregnant women who are having a medical emergency or are in active labor. The other bill would use federal funding to start a program to help mothers whose pregnancy end in stillbirth. They will be able to use that money to pay for burials. Both bills are still in the early phases and have to pass through several committees before making it to the House floor.
Numbers claim XAI's data center expansion could create some health issues in parts of the Mid-South. XAI opened its second South Memphis data center late last year. The company now wants a permit for turbines in South Haven, Mississippi, across the state line. The Southern Environmental Law Center sued XAI last week, claiming the turbines spread pollutants. The SELC released a study it commissioned on the health impact. Environmental health scientist Dr. Michael Cork says the turbines could increase air pollution. His study projects tens of millions of dollars in health-related damage.